Hello there, and welcome to Sleepy Nights. This is Kevin. Tonight, we have a collection of stories from the hills of Scotland. But before we begin our journey, let's take a moment to find some peace. Try to make yourself comfortable, allowing your body to settle naturally. Take a deep, slow breath in through your nose, imagining you're breathing in the fresh, clean air of the Highlands. And as you exhale through slightly parted lips, feel any tension beginning to melt away from your body, like morning mist lifting from a Scottish loch. With each breath, feel yourself sinking deeper into comfort. Perhaps you notice the weight of your head against your pillow, or the gentle rise and fall of your chest as you breathe. Allow a wave of relaxation to flow through your body, starting at the crown of your head. You can feel it wash gently over your forehead, softening any tension in your eyebrows and around your eyes. Let this peaceful feeling continue down across your cheeks, your jaw softening, any tension melting away. And this relaxation continues down your neck, across your shoulders. It flows down your arms to your fingertips, which might feel slightly warm or tingly. Your chest, your back, your abdomen all release any held tension, becoming soft and comfortable. This wave of relaxation continues down through your hips, your legs, all the way to your toes, until your entire body feels pleasantly heavy and wonderfully at ease. Now, as we prepare to enter this world of magic and wonder, allow yourself to drift deeper and deeper into relaxation, ready to receive these timeless myths and legends with an open heart and a curious mind. Scotland's landscape is dotted with magnificent castles, each stone and turret steeped in history and wonder. These remarkable structures have witnessed centuries of Scottish life, from royal celebrations and historic events to enchanting tales of magical creatures and mysterious happenings. More than mere fortifications, these castles serve as keepers of Scotland's rich cultural heritage, housing tales of mischievous goblins, wise wizards, playful fairies, and noble dragons that continue to delight visitors from around the world. The misty Highlands and spectacular coastlines of Scotland provide the perfect setting for tales of wonder and enchantment. Here, the ordinary world and the magical realm seem to dance together, allowing colourful legends to flourish across generations. From the majestic Edinburgh Castle, overlooking Scotland's capital, to the picturesque Donan, situated on its own small island. Each castle has developed its own unique collection of stories, reflecting both historical events and the imaginative spirit of the Scottish people. These legends served multiple purposes throughout Scottish history. They entertained during gatherings, preserved cultural identity during changing times, explained natural phenomena in creative ways, and sometimes shared wisdom with younger generations. They also added a touch of magic to the noble families who owned these castles, making their ancestral homes even more special. Today, these legends continue to captivate visitors who walk through ancient stone corridors or gaze up at towering battlements. They provide a glimpse to Scotland's heart, a nation that cherishes both its historical legacy and its treasury of imaginative tales. Perched majestically atop an ancient volcanic rock, Edinburgh Castle commands a spectacular view of Scotland's capital. For over 1,000 years, this grand fortress has watched over Edinburgh, witnessing countless historical events, while gathering a wonderful tapestry of legends and magical tales. One of the most captivating tales associated with Edinburgh Castle involves the mysterious network of tunnels believed to run beneath the castle and the historic Royal Mile. According to legend, these passages were discovered several centuries ago, prompting the castle authorities to send a young piper boy to explore them. The clever plan was that the boy would walk the length of the tunnels, playing his bagpipes continuously, while above ground, officials would follow the sound to map the underground network. The officials followed the cheerful music of the pipes as they moved along the Royal Mile. But suddenly, near the Tron Kirk, the music faded away. Despite searching everywhere, they couldn't find the boy, who seemed to have discovered something extraordinary in the labyrinth passages beneath the city. years since, many have reported hearing the faint sound of bagpipes emanating from beneath the cobbled stones of the Royal Mile, particularly in the quiet morning hours. The talented piper, it seems, continues his musical journey through the secret heart of old Edinburgh. Some versions of the legend suggest the tunnels connected the castle to Holyrood Palace at the opposite end of the Royal Mile, providing a secret passage for the royal household. Others propose that the young piper may have found a doorway to the realm of the fairies, where he now plays for their eternal celebrations. Whatever the truth, the music of the unseen piper has become an enchanting part of the castle's magical heritage. Another fascinating character in Edinburgh Castle's stories is the drummer boy. First mentioned in 1650, the spectral figure appears, playing a warning drum whenever the castle might face danger. Rather than being frightening, the drummer is seen as a protective guardian, using his magical instrument to alert the castle inhabitants of approaching challenges. Some historians suggest this legend may have originated from a real drummer boy who was assigned to watch for approaching visitors and signal their arrival. Over time, the story transformed into a more magical tale of a loyal guardian who continues to protect the ancient fortress with his enchanted drum. Edinburgh Castle is home to a remarkable array of other magical residents. The friendly castle dog, a playful canine spirit that roams near the small cemetery established for officers' pets. The friendly dog is said to wag its tail and perform tricks for children who visit the castle, bringing smiles to young guests. The gentle grey lady, a misty figure occasionally glimpsed near St. Margaret's Chapel, the oldest surviving building in the complex. She's said to bring feelings of peace and tranquility to those who sense her presence. The Green Lady and the Royal Nursery. Among the most beloved magical residents of Edinburgh Castle is the Green Lady, often spotted near the castle's royal apartments. Dressed in a beautiful emerald gown from which she derives her name, the Green Lady is considered a protector of the children who once lived in the castle. These royal chambers hold wonderful tales. Mary, Queen of Scots, gave birth to the future King James VI in a small room here in 1566. And local legend suggests that the Green Lady first appeared during this time, watching over the royal baby and bringing him magical dreams of the prosperous future Scotland would enjoy under his rule. Some castle guides tell children that the Green Lady still leaves small gifts. A shiny pebble, an unusually shaped leaf, or a feather in unexpected corners of the royal apartments, rewarding curious young visitors who explore the historic rooms with respectful wonder. Edinburgh Castle stands not just as a monument to Scottish history, but as a treasure house of tales that blend historical events with magical imagination. Its ancient stones continue to whisper these legends to those with open hearts and minds. Located in Angus, Glamis Castle rises from the Scottish countryside like something from a storybook. Its stone turrets and battlements creating a fairy tale silhouette against the sky. As the childhood home of the late Queen Mother and the setting of Shakespeare's Macbeth, Glamis continues a literary fame with royal connections. Its grand halls and winding corridors are home to some of Scotland's most intriguing and magical tales. One of the most fascinating legends associated with Glamis concerns a special hidden room within the castle walls. According to various accounts, sometime in the past, a secret chamber was created within Glamis Castle, accessible only through cleverly disguised doors and passages. This hidden room supposedly contained something extraordinary, perhaps a magical artifact, a portal to another realm, or a collection of ancient wisdom. The legend maintains that knowledge of the secret room was passed down from father to son, with only the Earl, his heir, and the estate steward knowing its location at any given time. The tale gained popularity in Victorian times when the wife of the 13th Earl, Lady Glamis, allegedly conducted a playful investigation to discover this family secret. She reportedly recruited guests to place handkerchiefs at every window visible from the outside, only to discover afterward that one window remained unmarked, suggesting a room whose existence was concealed from most of the household. Some versions of the story claim the hidden chamber contains a magnificent library of magical texts, a collection of curiosities from around the world, or perhaps a magical chess set whose pieces move on their own when no one is watching. Whatever the truth, the legend of Glamis Castle's secret room has become a delightful mystery that continues to intrigue visitors of all ages. Another entertaining legend concerns Alexander Lindsay, the 4th Earl of Crawford, nicknamed Earl Beardy for his impressive long beard. According to local lore, Earl Beardy was staying at Glamis one evening, and he wanted to play cards. And when no one would join his game, he declared in frustration that he would play with anyone who came along. Later that night, it is said that a mysterious stranger arrived at the castle requesting shelter. The stranger agreed to play cards with Earl Beardy, and they retired to a small room to begin their game. Servants passing by heard laughter, conversation, and the sound of cards being shuffled and dealt, continuing far into the night. The legend playfully suggests that Earl Beardy was playing with a very unusual opponent. Perhaps a magical being or a visitor from the fairy realm, and that they became so engrossed in their game that they lost track of time. Some versions claim that if you listen carefully in certain parts of the castle, you can still hear the shuffling of cards, the cheerful exclamations of players enjoying their eternal game. The castle guides often challenge young visitors to press their ears against particular walls, asking if they can hear the distant sound of Earl Beardy's magical card game, continuing through the centuries. Glamis Castle is home to several other enchanting figures, including the White Lady, a graceful figure seen floating through the castle gardens at twilight, particularly near the oldest trees. Some gardeners claim that areas where the White Lady has been spotted always seem to bloom more flowers than others. It is said that often playful spirit children are seen throughout the castle, and sometimes lead young visitors to the castle's most interesting features or most beautiful views. A talented unseen pianist occasionally adds a few notes to melodies played on the castle's antique instruments, sometimes heard. Musicians who perform at Glamis sometimes report hearing harmonies added to their music when playing certain pieces in the castle's music room. Glamis Castle embodies the perfect blend of historical fact and whimsical folklore that characterizes many Scottish legends. Its impressive architecture and long association with nobility have made it a perfect setting for tales that explore themes of family secrets, magical encounters, and hidden wonders. Visitors today can wander its corridors, imagining which stories might contain kernels of magic truth, waiting to be discovered by those with the eyes to see. Situated on the beautiful Isle of Skye, Dunvegan Castle has served as the ancestral home of Clan MacLeod for over 800 years, making it the oldest continuously inhabited castle in Scotland. While its stone walls and battlements speak to centuries of clan history, Dunvegan's most treasured legends revolve around its magical connections to the fairy realm. A perfect association for a castle located on an island whose very name means the Isle of the Mist. Dunvegan's most precious possession is undoubtedly the fairy flag, a special piece of silk carefully preserved and displayed within the castle. According to legend, this magical banner has wonderful powers that have helped Clan MacLeod through difficult times. The flag's origins the subject of several charming tales, each explaining how it came into the clan's possession. The most enchanting version tells of a Macleod chief who fell in love with a beautiful fairy princess. Though relationships between mortals and fairies were unusual, the fairy king granted his daughter permission to marry the human chief. But only for 20 years, after which she must return to the fairy realm. When the day of separation arrived, the fairy woman left her mortal husband with a magical gift, the wonderful flag, to protect their son and future generations of Macleods. Another version suggests the flag was a present from the fairies to a Macleod nurse who had sung such beautiful lullabies that even the fairy folk stopped to listen. Delighted by her musical talent, they presented her with the enchanted banner to protect the children in her care. The fairy flag is said to possess remarkable abilities. When unfurled during times of need, it brings good fortune to Clan Macleod. However, this power comes with a special condition. It can only be used 3 times before its magic returns to the fairy realm. Historical stories suggest the flag has already been used twice. Once to ensure victory in an important battle, and again to end a terrible plague that threatened the islanders. The flag's third and final use remains in reserve for Clan Macleod's moment of greatest need. Beyond bringing victory, some legends claim the flag had additional powers, including the ability to ensure abundant harvests, to heal illness, and to bring schools of fish into the loch during times of scarcity. Modern analysis suggests the flag may actually be a silk banner from distant lands, possibly brought back from travels or trading. But such scientific explanations do little to diminish the magical hold this special artifact has on the imagination of visitors and clan members alike. Near Dunvegan Castle, stands the ancient ferry bridge, the site where the clan chief reportedly said his final farewell to his fairy wife before she returned to her magical realm. Local tradition holds that this stone bridge marks a special place between the everyday world and the fairy kingdom, a spot where the veil between realms grows particularly thin. Visitors to the bridge sometimes report wonderful experiences, feeling a sudden warmth in the air, hearing distant music with no apparent source, or spotting unusual birds not normally seen in the area. According to local custom, travelers crossing the bridge should leave a small gift: colorful ribbon, shiny coin, or a pretty stone to show appreciation to the fairy folk who might be watching from their hidden realm. The distinctive flat-topped mountains near Dunvegan, known as Macleod's Tables, feature in another magical tale connected to the castle. According to legend, two friendly giants once visited the Macleod chief, who were so impressed by his hospitality that they flattened the tops of two nearby mountains to create massive tables for feasting. These unusual natural features serve as reminders of the clan's legendary generosity and their connections with magical beings. Dunvegan Castle's legends reflect the deep appreciation for wonder and enchantment found throughout the Scottish Highlands. These tales of fairy brides, magical banners, and gentle giants speak to a world where the ordinary and the magical exists side by side, and where even powerful clan chiefs recognize and respected the enchantment that surrounded their island home. Standing majestically atop a rocky crag overlooking the surrounding plains, Stirling Castle occupies one of Scotland's most spectacular locations. This important royal residence of the Stuart dynasty hosted coronations, grand celebrations, and magnificent tournaments. Alongside its rich historical importance, Stirling Castle features in legends that connect it to noble knights, colourful characters, and magical celebrations. Stirling Castle is said to be home to several presences, including the Green Lady and the Pink Lady, whose stories add colour and charm to the castle's long history. The Green Lady is believed to be a helpful guardian who watches over the royal chambers. According to the legend, she once saved the young queen from danger when a candle fell, potentially causing a fire. Now, she continues her watchful service, patrolling the castle's corridors in her elegant green dress, making sure all is well within the royal apartments. Many castle guides tell children that the Green Lady particularly looks after young visitors, and that the sudden cool breezes sometimes felt in the corridors are actually her passing by. The Pink Lady adds a touch of romance to the castle legends. Dressed in a flowing pink silk gown that catches the light beautifully, this elegant figure is said to represent enduring love. She's portrayed as a romantic spirit who ensures that lovers who visit the castle find happiness together. Stirling Castle's connections to chivalric legend were lovingly cultivated by King James IV, who created a Scottish Camelot at Stirling in the early 16th century. Inspired by tales of King Arthur and his knights, James established a round table where knights could gather as equals, hosting spectacular tournaments that brought colour, pageantry, and excitement to the castle. In 1508, James commissioned a special building within the castle grounds, specifically designed to house a magnificent round table where knights could feast together after friendly competitions. The structure included a jousting yard where mounted knights would demonstrate their skill and dexterity before the assembled court. One of the most delightful stories tells of a mysterious knight in shining armor who appeared during a grand tournament, challenging all participants. After winning every contest with remarkable skill, the mystery knight revealed himself to be King James IV in disguise, showing both his prowess and his playful spirit. Castle storytellers suggest that on special summer evenings, visitors might glimpse colourful banners and hear the distant sounds of trumpets, as if one of these grand tournaments were still taking place in some magical dimension just beyond our own. Among Stirling Castle's most fascinating features are the Stirling heads, beautifully carved oak medallions that once adorned the ceiling of the king's inner hall. While most of the original wooden carvings have been replaced with careful replicas, their designs continue to delight visitors of all ages. Castle guides often engage children by encouraging them to find hidden animals, magical symbols, mysterious faces within the intricate carvings. Some depict recognizable figures from history and mythology, while others portray individuals whose identities have been lost to time, allowing visitors to imagine their own stories about who these people might have been. The castle's association with wisdom and learning is enhanced by tales of the royal library that once existed in its walls. King James IV was known to collect many books on many subjects and invite learned individuals to his court. Stories tell of a special room where the king and his advisors would share knowledge, read stories from distant lands, and imagine new possibilities for their kingdom. For young visitors, guides sometimes suggest that the geometric patterns found throughout the castle's decorations might contain secret codes or hidden messages, perhaps maps to undiscovered rooms or clues to where small treasures might be hidden. This playful approach turns the exploration of historical architecture into an enchanting treasure hunt. Stirling Castle exemplifies how Scotland's royal fortresses served not only as centres of political importance, but as stages where monarchs could host grand celebrations, pursue knowledge, and create lasting impressions. Behind its impressive stone walls, history and imagination continue to dance together, each enhancing the visitor's appreciation of the other. Scotland's most photographed castle, Elandonnan, sits on a small island where 3 sea lochs meet, creating one of the most magical silhouettes in the Highlands. After being damaged centuries ago, the castle was lovingly rebuilt in the early 20th century, making it a symbol of renewal and restoration. This picturesque setting is perfect for tales of selkies, friendly guardians, and magical predictions. The waters surrounding Elandonnan are said to be home to selkies, enchanting beings that live as seals in the sea, but can shed their skins, become human, on land. These magical creatures feature prominently in Scottish coastal folklore, particularly in tales of friendship and magical encounters. One charming local legend tells of a fisherman from the nearby village of Dorney who spotted a group of selkies swimming toward the shore one moonlit evening. Hidden behind rocks, he watched in amazement as they removed their sealskins and transformed into people who danced joyfully on the beach. Fascinated by these magical beings, the fishermen later left gifts of fish and shells for them, earning their friendship. The selkies, grateful for his kindness and respect, blessed his fishing nets to always find a good catch. In return, the fisherman made sure to share stories of the selkies' beauty and magic, while always encouraging his fellow villagers to treat seals with special care and consideration. Near Eilean, visitors often watch for unusual seal behavior, with some lucky ones reporting seals that seem to wave at the castle and its visitors with surprisingly friendly expressions. A more historically connected legend tells of a guardian who watches over Eilean. Historical records confirm that Spanish visitors once stayed at the castle to help defend Scotland, and legend suggests that one particularly kind Spanish soldier continues to look after the castle and its visitors. According to castle lore, this presence ensures that lost items are returned to their owners, and sometimes guides visitors to the castle's most spectacular viewpoints. Castle staff share stories of visitors who have felt a gentle tap on their shoulder, turning to find no one there, only to discover they were about to miss a rainbow over the castle, or an otter playing in the loch below. Some versions of the tale suggest the guardian was a Spanish ambassador who fell in love with Scotland's beauty and promised to always protect this special place, explaining why his spirit chose to remain as a benevolent caretaker rather than returning to his distant homeland. Another magical figure associated with the castle is the Lady Mary, a beautiful presence who appears when happy events are about to affect Clan Mackenzie, the castle's traditional owners. Unlike many castle spirits, the Lady Mary is considered a joyful harbinger who announces good news like births, marriages, and homecomings. Within the castle walls lies a special stone with unusual properties. According to local tradition, visitors who make a wish while touching this stone might find their heartfelt desires coming true, especially wishes for safe journeys, new friendships, or creative inspiration. The stone's magic is said to be strongest for those who approach it with pure intentions and open hearts. These legends reflect Eileandón's special position, connecting land and sea, history and imagination. Like the castle itself, which bridges the island and mainland with its stone walkway, the tales surrounding Eileandón explore the beautiful connections between the everyday world and the magical realms, embodying the distinctive charm of Highland folklore. Scotland's castles stand as monuments not only to the nation's rich history, but to its wonderful imagination. The legends that have grown around these ancient stones reveal much about Scottish creativity and values across the centuries. In Edinburgh Castle's tales of musical pipers and loyal drummers, we see Scotland's appreciation for loyalty and artistic talent. Glamis Castle's legends of hidden rooms and eternal card games reflect the playful side of storytelling and the delight in mysteries waiting to be solved. The Dunvegan stories of the fairy flag demonstrate the Highland belief in magical protection and the special relationship between noble families and enchanted beings. Stirling Castle's colourful tournaments and friendly guardians speak to ideals of chivalry and hospitality, while Eileandón's selkies and wishing stones connect human communities to the natural and magical landscapes that surround them. What unites these diverse legends is their connection to specific places. Each castle's tales are uniquely shaped by its location, history, and the community that it's surrounded by. From Edinburgh's volcanic rock to Eileandón's island setting, the physical features of these sites have inspired centuries of storytelling. Today, as you walk through these ancient stones, listen carefully. Perhaps you'll one day hear the distant sound of bagpipes beneath Edinburgh Castle, or you'll glimpse the White Lady tending Glamis Castle's gardens, or you'll feel the magic of Dunvegan's fairy flag, or sense the excitement of a grand tournament at Stirling, or spot a curious seal watching you from the waters around Eilandonan. For in Scotland, the line between history and magic has always been wonderfully thin. The castles stand as gateways between these two enchanting worlds. You settle into your window seat on the Scottish night train as the Edinburgh station bustle fades behind you. The late afternoon light casts long shadows across the platform as the train pulls away with a gentle lurch. Your overnight journey to the far northern reaches of Scotland is just beginning, and already you feel the city's demands slipping away like the receding skyline outside your window. The train moves with a steady, hypnotic rhythm, wheels clicking against rail joints in a pattern that seems to whisper, "Rest, rest, rest." Rain gently knocks on the windows. The gentle sway of the carriage reminds you of a cradle, rocking with each curve of the track. Your compartment is tidy and comfortable, with wood-panelled walls and seats upholstered in a subtle tartan pattern. Small reading lamps cast a warm glow as daylight begins its slow retreat. You've stowed your bag on the rack above and placed your ticket in the holder by the door. A simple ritual that marks the transition from hurried traveller to passenger, with nothing required of you now but to watch Scotland unfold outside your window. As the train gains speed, city buildings give way to countryside. You catch glimpses of stone cottages with smoke rising from chimneys, fields bordered by ancient stone walls, and streams that flash silver in the fading light. The clickety-clack of wheels becomes a constant companion, a metronome counting seconds of peaceful forward motion. At the first stop, an elderly gentleman with silver hair and weather-worn cheeks boards the train, and he takes a seat across from you. He settles in with practiced ease, nodding a greeting as he places a walking stick with a carved wooden handle against the seat. "Good evening," he says, his voice carrying the gentle lilt of the Highlands. "Heading north, I see." When you confirm your destination, he smiles. "Oh, yes. A beautiful journey ahead. I've been making this trip for more years than I care to count." The train pulls away again, rocking gently as it regains speed. Outside, the landscape begins to change, fields giving way to more dramatic terrain as you head northward. The afternoon light has softened now, taking on the golden quality that photographers call the magic hour. Spits of rain still hitting against the windows. "Is this your first time on this route?" the gentleman asks, introducing himself as Duncan. When you mention you're not familiar with the places you'll be passing, his eyes brighten. "Ah, well, you're in for a right treat. You see, this railway cuts through some of Scotland's most storied lands. Every hill and loch we pass has tales that go back hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of years. The gentle rhythm of the train seems to invite conversation, and there's something about Duncan's manner that feels familiar and trustworthy. You find yourself relaxing into the moment as the city stress that followed you aboard begins to fade with each mile of northward travel. Do you see that hill there? Duncan points to a perfectly rounded knoll in the distance, standing alone in an otherwise flat valley. That's a fairy hill, what we call a Scythian in the old tongue. Folk used to say it was hollow inside, home to the fairy folk. Even 20 years ago, farmers would plough around it rather than across it. You watch as the hill slowly passes from view, trying to imagine generations of ploughs carefully avoiding its perfect slopes. The train rounds a curve, and the sunlight catches raindrops on the window, transforming them into tiny prisms that scatter rainbow colors across the compartment. Oh yes, the weather changes quickly in the Highlands, Duncan observes, as the light rain begins to tap against the glass. We have a saying: if you don't like the Scottish weather, wait 20 minutes. As the afternoon light fades further, the train attendant passes through, switching on more lamps and offering tea from a trolley. Duncan accepts a cup with a nod of thanks, wrapping weathered hands around its warmth. You notice a simple gold band on his left hand, worn thin with years. "43 years I worked for the railway," he says, following your gaze. "Started as a porter, ended as a station manager up at Inverness. This line," he gestures to the window, "well, this line is in my blood now. My wife always said I loved the rails almost as much as I loved her." His smile carries both fondness and a touch of sadness. The train slows as you approach a stone viaduct spanning a deep valley. Rain streams across the windows. You can see the dramatic arches carrying you high above a rushing river. "Impressive, isn't it?" Duncan says. "Built in 1897. The men who constructed this, well, you see, they worked through Highland winters, summer midges, everything the Scottish weather could throw at them. They called it the Bridge of Sighs. Not for romantic reasons, mind you, but for the sound the wind makes between the arches on a stormy night. And as if on cue, the wind picks up, sending sheets of rain against the glass. But inside, everything remains warm and snug. The contrast between the wild weather outside and the cozy compartment, making your journey feel all the more comfortable. The train's dining car opens for the evening meal. Duncan suggests you both make your way there. The narrow corridor rocks gently as you walk, requiring a steady hand against the wall for balance. It's a pleasant sensation, like walking on the deck of a very stable ship. Each carriage you pass through has its own character. From the modern standard class to the more ornate first class compartments. The dining car glows with soft lighting reflecting off white tablecloths and polished wood panels. As you settle at a table, the countryside continues its steady procession behind the glass. Now farms, giving way to wilder terrain, hills growing into mountains that loom as dark shapes against the darkening sky. Over a simple but hearty meal of traditional Scottish fare, cockaliki soup, followed by venison with neeps and tatties. Duncan points out landmarks barely visible in the gathering dusk. There, he says, indicating a distant shimmer. That's the edge of Loch Lomond. In the old days, clans would test their young men by having them swim across. The waters are deeper than they look, over 600 feet in places. The soup warms you from the inside, its comforting heat spreading through your body as the train rocks gently onward. Outside, twilight has nearly completed its transition to night, with only a faint band of deep blue remaining on the western horizon. We'll be coming to the Trossachs soon, Duncan continues, his voice taking on the natural cadence of a storyteller. That's Rob Roy McGregor country, Scotland's own Highland rogue. The hills around here sheltered him when the law was at his heels. They say he knew every cave and hollow between Loch Lomond and Loch Catherine. The train's rhythm seems to underscore his words. The clickety-clack Now a steady backbeat to tales of cattle raids and midnight escapes. There's something mesmerizing about hearing these stories while physically moving through the very landscape where they unfolded centuries ago. As you finish your meal and the attendant clears away the dishes, the last light fades completely from the sky. Now the window reflects the dining car's interior, with occasional glimpses of darkness beyond when passing lights illuminate fragments of the landscape. A stone wall here, a cluster of sheep there, the silver thread of a stream catching moonlight between clouds. Back in your compartment, the attendant has converted the seats into comfortable sleeping berths. Fresh linens and plump pillows await, promising rest rocked by the gentle motion of the train. In the old days, Duncan says, as he settles back into his seat, before electric lights and such, night travel was considered somewhat magical. Moving through darkness from one place to another, seeing things no day traveller ever would. Fox eyes reflecting lantern light from the embankment. Barn owls ghosting alongside the train for a stretch. Hunting in our moving pool of light. You notice how the train's lamps cast a warm glow that barely reaches beyond the glass. Occasionally, distant lights appear. A farmhouse window glowing amber in the distance, or the clustered lights of a small village that appears and vanishes as the train passes through without stopping. We'll be coming to Rannoch Moor soon, Duncan says, his voice lower now, matching the intimacy of the night dark compartment. 20,000 acres of bog and moorland, one of Europe's last true wildernesses. The railway builders had to float the track on brushwood foundations because the ground was too wet for conventional construction. Even today, if you know where to look, you can see the track actually move when the train passes, rising and falling like it's breathing. The thought of the track breathing beneath you adds another dimension to the train's movement. You become even more aware of its different rhythms. The steady side-to-side rock, the gentle bouncing over rail joints, the occasional slow tilt when banking through curves. Each movement invites your body to relax further into the comfortable berth. The moor has its own stories, Duncan continues. Travellers in the old days feared crossing it. They told tales of lights that would appear on foggy nights, small, bobbing lanterns that seemed to be carried by other travellers. These lights would lead people off the safe paths into the bogs, where they'd be lost. He smiles. Of course, we know now about marsh gas and such, but still, on a misty night up here, the old stories don't seem so far-fetched. Through the window, you see only darkness now. The occasional flash of moonlight when the clouds part momentarily. There's something profoundly peaceful about being cocooned in the warm, gently rocking compartment while traversing such remote wilderness. Look there, Duncan says, pointing to the window. In the distance, a cluster of lights hovers above the dark expanse of the moor. Glencoe village. Beyond it lies a mountain pass of the same name. Glencoe. His voice then takes on a more somber quality. Aye, it's a place of terrible beauty, that one. The mountains there are some of Scotland's most magnificent. But they witnessed one of our darkest chapters. As the distant lights slowly shift position outside your window, Duncan recounts the story of the Glencoe massacre. How in 1692, soldiers violated Highland hospitality. They say the ghosts still wander the glens on snowy nights. Not that I believe in such things, mind you, he adds with a small smile. But there's still a feeling in that place that stays with you. The train begins to slow, approaching a small station where a handful of passengers will disembark. The platform appears out of the darkness, a small island of yellow light in the vast Highland night. A few people wait with collars turned up against the light rain, their faces momentarily illuminated as the train's windows pass by. The station building is built of sturdy stone, looking much as it must have been when first constructed. After a brief stop, the train pulls away again, its rhythm building gradually back to the steady pace you've become so familiar with. "We'll be following the coastline soon," Duncan says, his voice growing softer. "On clear nights, you can see all the way to the Highlands. The ancient Celts believed that the islands were places where the veil between the worlds grew thin, neither fully part of the land nor entirely claimed by the sea. The clouds must have parted outside, because suddenly moonlight floods the compartment, casting everything in silver and shadow. Through the window, you catch glimpses of the sea, its surface rippled by wind and dappled with moonlight. The train follows the coastline now, sometimes running so close that it seems to be skimming the edge of the water itself. "Listen," Duncan says. Beneath the rhythm of the wheels, you can hear a new sound. Waves breaking against the shore, their endless cycle creating a counterpoint to the train's steady progress. "Two journeys happening at once," he remarks. "The train moving north, and the tide making its age-old circuit. My grandfather was a fisherman before he worked on the rails. He always said he traded one rhythm for another. The mention of his grandfather leads Duncan to share stories of Highland fishing communities. But how how they read the sea and sky for weather signs, the traditions surrounding their boats, the songs women would sing when watching for returning vessels. His voice takes on a gentle, almost musical quality as he recounts fragments of these songs. Not quite singing, but letting the words rise and fall in their traditional patterns. The effect is deeply calming. Between the train's motion, the distant sound of waves, and Duncan's melodic storytelling, you feel yourself drifting towards sleep. We'll be crossing the Moray Firth soon, Duncan says, stifling a yawn himself. The dolphins sometimes follow the shoreline there. Railway workers used to time their breaks to watch for them. Some believed they were reincarnated souls of sailors lost at sea. He smiles at the notion. Beautiful creatures, whatever their nature may be. Your eyelids have grown heavy, but through them you catch occasional glimpses of the moonlight. The moonlight hitting the coastline, silvery beaches, dark cliffs, the distant flash of what might have been a lighthouse. Duncan's voice has grown even quieter now. His story is now shared almost in a whisper, as if respecting your journey towards sleep. He speaks of ancient standing stones you'll pass in the night, aligned with stars that guided travellers long before railways existed. He mentions mountain passes where legendary battles occurred, now peaceful under moonlight and watchful stars. My grandmother, he says softly, she used to say that night travellers were blessed. You see the world when it's dreaming, she'd tell me, and catch glimpses of what it dreams about. I should have always liked that thought. The gentle rocking of the train has become a lullaby now, breathing has slowed. Your awareness drifting between Duncan's soft words and the peaceful sounds of night travel. Through barely open eyes, you notice that he's gazing out at the passing landscape with an expression of contented familiarity. A man at home in this journey between places. Rest now, he says, noticing your heavy eyelids. The train knows the way. Been following the same tracks for over 100 years. He reaches up to dim the compartment lamp, leaving just enough light to see the outline of the passing world outside. I'll wake you before you stop. Don't worry. As you drift deeper towards sleep, the boundaries between wakefulness and dreaming begin to blur. The train's motion continues to rock you, while the steady rhythm of wheels on rails becomes the heartbeat of your journey into dreams. Duncan's stories seem to follow you there, not just the details, but their essence. Tales of a land shaped by weather and time. Of people connected to earth and sea. Of journeys made countless times, yet always unique. In this in-between state, the Highland train carries you forward. Tomorrow will find you further north, waking to new landscapes and fresh stories waiting beyond your window. But for now, the gentle rocking motion, steady rhythm of wheels accompanies you into peaceful slumber. The last thing you're aware of is the distant sound of waves against the shore. The soft breathing of Duncan, your traveling companion. And the train's whisper as it glides through the Highland night, ferrying its sleeping passengers safely through the darkness toward the dawn. In the days when the world was younger and the veil between realms hung thin, there lived a fisherman named Ian MacCudrum on the windswept shores of North Uist in the Outer Hebrides of Scotland. His cottage stood alone on the rocky coastline, gull cries and the ceaseless sea his only companions. Ian was a strong lad, with hair the colour of dark peat, and eyes that mirrored the changeable sea. Though skilled with net and line, fortune had not favoured him. The winters had grown longer, the catches meagre, and many nights he lay hungry, a stone-weight sorrow on his chest. During the time of the Samhain, when spirits roam freely between worlds, a great storm swept across the islands. The winds harried the cliffs, shrieking through fissures like mourners, and waves, tall as the kirk steeple, crashed against the shore. Ian had been checking his lobster pots when the tempest arose. And so, he sought shelter in a hidden cove that he'd never before noticed. As he huddled beneath an overhanging rock, the moon broke suddenly through the churning clouds, casting an enchanted light above the cove. And it was there before his disbelieving eyes. Ian beheld a sight few mortals are privileged to witness. Seven sleek seals swam into the sheltered waters, their movements graceful as dancers. They made their way to a stretch of silver sand, and there, wonder of wonders, they shed their seal skins as easily as a lass might remove her cloak. In their place stood 7 beautiful women with skin pale as sea foam and hair that seemed woven from moonlight itself. Hand in hand, the Selkie women danced upon the shore, their voices rising in songs no human tongue had ever shaped. Ian watched, entranced, unable to move or speak. But his gaze was drawn to one among them, whose beauty outshone her sisters as the sun outshines the stars. "Moira," he whispered, though how he knew her name he could not say. Longing speared Ian's bones. Without conscious thought, he found himself moving along the shadows of the cove, never taking his eyes from the magnificent creature who had bewitched him so completely. The seal skins lay in a pile upon a rock, guarded only by the storm and the night. With trembling hands, Ian took the one he somehow knew belonged to Moira and tucked it inside his jacket, next to his pounding heart. What blessing can grow from a root of theft, he wondered. But the thought vanished like sea foam as the selkie's image filled his mind. As the moon sailed behind the clouds once more, the selkie women gathered their skins and returned to the sea. All save one. Moira searched frantically among the rocks, calling out in a language that sounded like waves breaking onto the shore. With mournful cries, her sisters slipped back into their seal forms and disappeared beneath the dark waters, leaving Moira alone. Ian stepped from his hiding place, his lantern casting a weak glow in the darkness. "Are you lost, lass?" he called, as if he had just happened upon her. Moira turned, her eyes wide with fear. "You have taken what is mine," she said, her voice carrying the rhythm of the tide. "I know no such thing," Ian lied, though the skin seemed to burn against his chest. "Then find it," she answered. "For without my skin the sea is barred to me. I am trapped in this form and far from my home and kin." "I can offer ye shelter from the storm," Ian said. "My cottage is humble but dry. And what choice did Moira have? With reluctance playing upon her fair face, she followed the fisherman to his cottage by the sea. And it was said that days passed, and days became weeks. Ian hid the seal skin beneath a loose hearthstone, and though Moira searched when he was away with his nets, she could not find it. Yet strange it was. The longer she stayed in the fisherman's cottage, the less urgently she searched. For Ian, you see, though he had committed a grievous wrong in stealing her freedom, showed her kindness in all other ways. He brought her shells and pretty stones from the shore, taught her the ways of human life, never pressed his advantage, though his love for her grew stronger with each passing day. For her part, Moira found herself warming to the quiet fisherman. She told him songs that called the fish into his nets. So his catches grew plentiful, and their table was never empty. His rough hands grew gentle when they helped untangle her silver hair. And in time, she found herself watching for his boat's return, with something like longing. When the first snow fell upon the island, Moira placed her hand in Ian's, and they were married by the old priest, who asked no questions about the strange woman with sea-deep eyes. The folk of North Uis whispered, of course, for islanders keep no better company than their own talk. They spoke of how Moira's feet seemed never to fully touch the ground, how salt water dripped from her hair, even on the driest days. Yet, as the seasons turned, happiness bloomed within the fisherman's cottage. Moira's belly swelled with a child. When she was brought to bed the following summer, she delivered not one babe, but 3. 2 boys and a girl, each with their mother's otherworldly beauty and their father's strong frame. "Will the bairns be warm enough?" she asked. "The air bites sharper than water." The midwife gasped upon seeing the infant's hands, for between their tiny fingers stretched delicate webs of skin that had to be cut at birth. And as they grew, other strangeness manifested. They could hold their breath beneath the waves for unnaturally long periods. And they could swim before they could walk. The fish followed them as they splashed in the shadows, and seals would raise their heads from the water to watch the children play, as if recognizing their own. The villagers' good fortune grew with Moira's presence. She showed them how to harvest seaweed for their gardens, which herbs from the shoreline would heal wounds, and when storms would arrive before any man could read the signs. Such knowledge was freely given, and in time most forgot their earlier suspicions. For 7 years life continued thus, Not perfect, but filled with its own curious joy. Ian's fortunes had turned, with Moira at his side. His net's always full. His family never hungry. The children grew strong and wild as the island itself, running along the shore with the freedom of creatures belonging to two worlds. But in the secret corners of her heart, Moira never stopped yearning for the sea. On bright, moonlit nights, Ian would wake to find her standing on the shore, the waves washing over her feet, her face turned toward the horizon with such naked longing that shame would fill his heart anew. It is said that it happened on a day like any other. Ian had taken the boat out before dawn, and Moira was airing out the cottage. She pulled up the old rug before the hearth, and there she saw it, a loose hearthstone, slightly raised above the others. And with trembling fingers, she pried it up, and there lay her seal skin, carefully folded, carefully preserved. All these years, it had been beneath her feet. A sound escaped from her throat, half laugh, half sob, as she lifted the skin into her arms. Its touch flooded her with the hush of deep, cool waters, and faces that she'd left behind. She ran her fingers through the soft fur, and it seemed to come alive at her touch, rippling like the sea itself. So lost was she in rediscovering her true self that she did not hear the cottage door open, did not know Ian had returned, until his shadow fell across her. His face, when she looked up, held fear, guilt, and a love so deep it had driven him to this terrible act. "You've found it, then," he said simply. "All these years," Moira whispered. "All these years it lay beneath our hearth." "Aye. I couldn't bear to be parted from you," Ian said, kneeling before her. "That first night, when I saw you dancing with your sisters, something broke and mended in my heart all at once. my home, my family. Aye, he admitted. I did that terrible thing. And I would do it again to have known your love. To have our children. To have had these years with you by my side. She rose then, the sealskin draped over her arm, and walked past him out the door. Ian followed, his steps heavy as his heart, down to the shore where his tide was coming in. Moira stood at the waves. The sealskin clutched tight. Her face turned toward the vast blue that had been her first home. The call of it sang in her blood, pulled at her heart. She had only to step into the waves, only to wrap the skin around her shoulders, and she would be free again. Ian watched, not moving to stop her. And perhaps it was this, his final acceptance of her freedom to choose, that stayed her feet. She turned to him, her eyes filled with the light of two worlds. I should go, she whispered. By rights and all justice, I should return to the sea and never look back. Aye, Ian said, his voice breaking. Aye, you should. Moira thought of her children, so like her and yet belonging to the land as much as the sea. She looked at Ian, the man who had stolen her freedom and then day by day earned her heart despite his terrible crime. I will stay, she said at last. But not as your captive. Never again as that. She held the sealskin out to him. This must never be hidden from me again. It must be where I can see it, touch it, and know it's safe. I must be free to choose each day to remain. Ian's eyes filled with tears of relief and shame. Anything you ask, he vowed. Your skin shall never be taken far from you again. Together they crafted a beautiful chest of driftwood and sea glass, lined with the softest wool. The tang of pine air and wool grease filled the air as they worked, binding their promise in physical labor. replaced her sealskin, and the chest remained always near the bed, testament to her sacrifice and his promise. And so life continued in the little cottage by the sea, but changed in subtle ways. When the pull of the ocean grew too strong, Moira would open her chest and hold the sealskin close, drawing comfort from its touch. The illness that had sometimes plagued her in the years before, a wasting, weakening thing that came upon her when the sea longing was strongest, troubled her no more, as long as her skin remained near, healing entirely at its touch. And then it was said around 10 years passed in peace. The children grew tall and strong, the island prospered, and it seemed the McCuttrums had found their balance between two worlds. But the sea is a jealous mistress that does not surrender her children easily. You see, this whole time there lived in the village a fisherman named Dougal, whose heart had grown twisted with envy. While Ian's nets always came up full, his own remained empty more often than not. He'd lost 2 brothers to the black winter of '67, the sea giving him only bodies tangled in kelp. He watched the McCuttrum family with poisonous jealousy, whispering to any who would listen that unnatural forces were at work. "Have you seen how the seals follow their boat?" he would ask. "Have you noticed how the children can swim in waters too cold for any mortal? There's something uncanny about that woman." When the fishing grew poor for all save the McCuttrums, when an early frost killed the crops but somehow spared their garden, the whispers grew to open talk of witchcraft and fairy blood. And it's said that one night, after drowning his failures in too much whiskey, Dougal staggered to the McCuttrum cottage while the family was away. The cottage stood empty, an irresistible temptation to a man convinced that the secret to Ian's success lay within. Dougal broke the simple lock and entered, his whiskey-addled mind filled with visions of witch tokens and fairy gold. He searched roughly until he came upon the beautiful chest beside the bed. Unlike everything else in the simple cottage, this was a thing of obvious value and care. chest was not locked. For who on the honest island would steal from their neighbours? And when Dooku lifted the lid, he found the sealskin nestled within. Even in his drunken state, he knew at once what it was. For the old tales of selkie wives were told around every island hearth. So that's their secret, he slurred, lifting the skin with clumsy, drunken hands. Ian McCodrum caught himself a selkie woman. Let's see how his luck holds when I take her magic for myself. He stumbled from the cottage with his prize, convinced that possessing the sealskin would transfer the selkie's blessings to him. In his ignorance, he did not understand that he had stolen not just a magical object, but Moira's very essence, her connection to her true nature. And so when the McCodrums returned, they found their home ransacked and the precious chest empty. Moira's cry upon discovering her skin missing was such a sound of anguish that it brought her children running and caused the seals offshore to raise their heads in alarm. Within hours, Moira took to her bed, a weakness stealing through her body as if the tide were ebbing from her very veins. Her skin grew pale as winter sea foam, her eyes dim as fog. By nightfall, she could not rise. By morning, she could barely speak. Ian knelt beside her, his face ravaged by fear. I swear to you I did not take it, he said. I would never break my promise. I know, Moira whispered. But without it, without being close to it, I cannot remain. The sea calls me home, but without my skin, I can neither stay nor go. I am caught between worlds and it is killing me. Ian sent for the village healer, but her herbs could do nothing for a selkie separated from her skin. This is beyond my power to heal, the wise woman said. And it said that that night, as Moira's breathing grew shallow, her children gathered at her bedside. Alistair, the eldest son, took his mother's cold hand. Tell us who did this, he said. Tell us where to seek your skin. Moira's eyes flickered open, see deep despite her weakness. I cannot know for certain, but I feel it. To the south, it calls to me even as I fade. The three children, Alistair, Fingal, and young Mairead, exchanged glances, while Ian kept vigil at Moira's side. They slipped from the cottage under cover of darkness. They made their way to the shore, where 7 seals waited as if expecting them. The largest seal, a great bull with knowing eyes, approached Alistair and looked at him with an intelligence no mere animal could possess. "Grandfather," Alistair said, for though they had never spoken of it, the children had always known their mother's blood was not entirely human. "Our mother is dying. Her seal skin has been stolen." The great seal made a sound of mourning. Then he turned and slipped into the waves, the other seals following. But they did not swim away. Instead, they waited just offshore, their dark heads bobbing in the moonlight. Understanding, the children waded into the cold water. The seals surrounded them, guiding them through waves that should have drowned them. Alistair led his siblings with the certainty of one following an invisible compass, drawn by the same mysterious connection that linked his mother to her stolen skin. They traveled through the night, the seals bearing them over waters too rough for any human children to survive. And as dawn broke, they approached a small island where smoke rose from a crude shelter. And there, passed out beside a dying fire, lay Dougal, the seal skin spread beneath him like a blanket. As they approached, Dougal suddenly woke. His eyes widened at the sight of the 3 children, their clothes dry despite the sea journey, their eyes reflecting the rising sun with inhumane light. "Witch spawn," he cried, stumbling to his feet and clutching the seal skin. "Stay back. That belongs to our mother," Alistair said. "Return it, and we'll leave you in peace." But Dougal saw in the sealskin his last hope of changing his fortunes. "She's had her luck long enough," he snarled. "Now it's my turn." He turned to flee. Young Mairead darted after him. In his desperation to escape, Dougal shoved the child, Mairead fell, striking her head on the rocks, and lay still. What happened next would be whispered for generations. The seals surged from the water, transformed to human warriors with the heads of seals. Not all seal folk, but Moira's own kin who had watched over her children from afar. A fury filled Alistair and Fingal. They moved with the speed and grace of selkies. Their hands wept once more, as they had been at birth. They took the sealskin from Dougal's fingers, and Alistair sent him tumbling into the cold sea. The seal folk surrounded him, the intentions clear in their dark eyes. What became of Dougal after that? None can say with any certainty, though no body ever washed ashore. Fingal gathered Mairead in his arms, her blood staining the rocks. But the great bull seal approached, now in the form of an ancient chieftain. He placed a webbed hand on Mairead's brow, and her eyes fluttered open, the wound closing beneath his touch. "Return to your mother," he said. "Tell her she must choose once and for all between land and sea. The time of living in both worlds draws to a close." The journey back to North Eust passed swiftly. They reached the shore as the moon rose, full and bright as it had been on the night Ian first saw Moira dancing with her sisters. They found their father on the beach, their mother in his arms. He had carried her from her sickbed, hoping the sound of the waves might give her strength. She lay still as death, her breath coming in shallow gasps, her skin translucent as sea glass. "We found it, Mother," Alistair said, placing the seal skin in her limp hands. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Moira's fingers curled around the soft fur. Immediately, color returned to her cheeks, and her eyes fluttered open, filled with the light of the sea. The illness fled from her at the skin's touch. She sat up in Ian's arms, looking from her husband's tear-streaked face to her children, then to the seals waiting in the shallows. "You must choose, Mother," Alistair said, "between land and sea." Moira looked at Ian, and in that look passed the memory of all they had shared, the betrayal and forgiveness, the joy and sorrow, the love that had grown despite all odds. "I cannot say," she said at last. "The sea calls me home, and I have been too long away." Ian's face crumpled in grief, but he did not protest. He had always known this day might come. "But neither can I leave you all behind," Moira continued. "And so I propose a new way." She turned to the great bull seal, her father, and spoke in an ancient language of the sea folk. A discussion followed with gestures toward Ian and the children. At last the Selkie chieftain nodded. "It is agreed," Moira said. "I will return to the sea, for I must or perish. But the bond between us will not be broken. I will dwell beneath the waves, yet walk beside my family each full moon," she vowed, sealing the ancient bargain. She knelt before her children, taking each of their faces in her hands. "You are of both worlds, more than I ever was. The choice I could not have, you shall. To walk on land or swim the deep as your hearts direct." To Ian she spoke last and most tenderly. "My husband," she said, "you took my freedom but then gave it back, and in doing so, earned what could never have been taken. My heart." She pressed the sealskin into his hands. "I entrust this to you once more, but not to hide, but to protect. Keep it safe in the chest where it has always been. Each full moon bring it to this shore, and I shall return to you for one night, shedding my seal form to be your wife again." Ian clutched the precious skin. "And the children, they may visit me beneath the waves whenever they wish, for the seal folk recognize their blood, and I shall watch over all of you, as will my kin." She gestured to the seals waiting patiently offshore. "No Macodrum shall ever drown. No storm shall catch your boats unawares. No hunger shall touch your table." And with a last lingering kiss, Moira stepped away from her human family and toward the waiting sea. And at the water's edge she turned back once more. "Remember," she said, "I choose this fate freely, and in choosing bind our families together for all time. McCottrams of land and the seal folk of the sea, forever connected by love stronger than magic, deeper than tide. Then she walked into the waves and was gone, a sleek seal head appearing moments later among its kin. The selkie pod lingered offshore until dawn, their dark eyes watching over the bereaved family on the beach. True to her word, Moira returned when Ian brought her sealskin to the shore. The children grew into adults who moved freely between the worlds of land and sea, binding their hands with linen strips when they visited market towns to hide the webbing that still marked them as different. In time, the tale spread across the islands, and the McCottrams became known as the descendants of the seals. They prospered as no other fishing family had before, blessed with a knowledge of sea patterns and weather that kept them safe through the fiercest storms. If you visit the shores of North Uist when the moon is full, you might glimpse a beautiful woman emerging from the waves to meet her family. For the blood of the selkies runs in the veins of the McCottrams still, and the promise made between Moira and Ian binds their descendants to this day. Testament to love that bridged between two worlds and healed the wound of betrayal with the balm of forgiveness freely.